Let's say this worksheet is something that someone else set up. You get the worksheet, and you have to figure out exactly how things are working. It would be really helpful if we could see all of the formulas at once, and Excel has a couple of ways to do that. The first way, if you happen to take Spanish in high school, you might remember the word piñata, P-I-N-A-T-A. Well, the N gives us an N-Y sound. Do you remember why? It's that little squiggly line, the tilde, above the N. And if you look at your keyboard on a US keyboard, right above the Tab key and below the Escape key, there's a key with two characters. The top character is a tilde, and the bottom character is a backwards accent mark called a grave. If you hold down the Control key and press the tilde key, Excel goes into Show Formulas mode. In Show Formulas mode, you're able to see every formula all at once. You'll notice that it made some of the columns wider, and if I have particularly long formulas, like here in D32, I don't get to see the whole formula, but at least I can see which cells have formulas and which cells don't. To turn off Show Formulas mode, use Control tilde again. If you can't remember Control tilde, in the Formulas tab, Excel now gives us a button called Show Formulas. It works the same as Control tilde. Either one works fine. I'll also note that if you happen to be in Europe, their keyboards there are different, and in some countries, the tilde and the grave are on different keys. It's actually the grave that makes this work. But here in the US, Control tilde is an easy way to remember. And now sometimes you'll want to see how one particular formula works. The easiest way to do that is to select the formula, so I'm in D32, and press the F2 key. Excel lights up all of the references used in that formula. You'll see the E30 in that cell is in blue, and that corresponds to cell E30 in blue. The orange E21 corresponds to the orange outline in E21. Very easy to get a visual view of where the formulas are going. Sometimes, though, you need something a little bit more permanent. I'm going to hit the Escape key to get out of Edit mode. And I'm on the Formulas tab of the ribbon. There's a group there called Formula Auditing. Most of these features have been around in several versions of Excel, but they were buried deep within the menu. Very difficult to find and very difficult to use. To see how this formula works, I'm going to click the Trace Precedence button. Excel draws in arrows showing all of the cells that are used to calculate this cell. Now there's a gotcha. You have to watch out just to the left of the active cell if you get this icon. That icon means that there's at least one reference that's on another worksheet or in another workbook. Now I learned a cool trick in one of my power seminars recently. Someone raised their hand and they said if you could double click that dot at the corner of the icon, Excel will show you all of the other cells on other sheets. It's really hard to get to that dot. Let me try it. Perfect. So it's the dot at the lower right-hand corner of the icon. You double-click, and then it shows a list of all the other references on all the other worksheets. Let me cancel this and show you what else we can do with these precedent arrows. I've clicked Trace Precedence once, and I see all of the cells that are directly referenced in this formula. But if you think about it, those cells all have precedence as well. So if I click Trace Precedence again, I'll see a few more cells that roll into this calculation. Trace Precedence again, and again, and again, and again, and soon I realize that this is so complicated, it's probably something I don't want to touch. To get rid of these arrows, click Remove Arrows. The opposite feature is called Trace Dependence. Choose cell F4. Let's see where this cell is used. Click Trace Dependence in the ribbon, and Excel will show that there's only one formula that directly references F4. But if you click Trace Dependence again, that cell, the cell in H4, is used in two other cells. Click again, and again, and again, and again, and you realize that this one cell is actually making its way through the whole worksheet. Great way to get a visual map of how the worksheet is working. Let me click Remove Arrows to get rid of those. Now there are a couple of new features here in Formula Auditing that were brand new in Excel 2003, so depending on what you upgraded from, you may never have seen these. As a matter of fact, even if you were in Excel 2003, you probably never saw them because, again, they were buried so deep. Another interesting thing on the ribbon is if Microsoft thinks something is really cool and really important, they give it a really big button, like the watch window. Let's take a look at the Evaluate formula. This is one of the new features from Excel 2003. The way that this works is select a cell, so I'll select cell D32, and click Evaluate Formula. Now Excel shows us our formula, and you'll see that E30 is underlined. That means that is the piece that Excel would calculate first. Now we have two choices here. We can either click Evaluate, which will immediately tell us what E30 is, or we can click Step In. When you click Step In, you get to see the calculation that's used in E30. So E30 is E28 plus E29. I could step in again, but let's evaluate at this point. Evaluate, E28 is that number, E29 is that number, and now Excel is about to do that subtraction. We'll click Evaluate, and we get down to the final answer. Now at this point, we need to step out, which will take that result back up and replace E30 with the actual number. This is a great way to watch your formulas calculate in slow motion. It's perfect when you have a formula that you are absolutely convinced is calculating wrong. Go into Evaluate Formula mode, and you'll understand that it was probably an order of operations or a missing parentheses that's causing the problem. I'll click Evaluate, 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 and we can go right through the formula and watch the whole formula get calculated in slow motion. This is a cool new feature. I'll click Close. An interesting thing about the ribbon is that if Microsoft thinks that a feature is particularly useful, we get a big icon instead of a little icon. And you'll notice the watch window is the only button in formula auditing that gets the large icon. They really want you to see this new feature. Now, if you're a VBA programmer writing macros in Excel, you've had a watch window for the last 15 years, and you'll have to admit it's one of the very useful tools for debugging. It's even more useful in Excel. The place where the watch window comes in handy is if you have a workbook with a summary on the top worksheet and many work papers going back. You're working back on the work paper sheet, but you constantly have to go back to the summary to see the impact on the total. Rather than having to switch back and forth from one sheet to the next, you can set up a watch window that will show you selected cells on many sheets. Click the watch window to get started. When you click the Add Watch button, Excel asks you to point to the cell that you're interested in watching. Maybe you're interested in that car payment back on the Discovering page. Click Add, and Excel adds it to the list. There's room there for several different cells. You can even watch a cell on the current sheet. Now, the great thing about the watch window is it always shows you the current value of all of those cells. If the cell has a formula, you'll see the formula in the right-hand column. The watch window stays there no matter what worksheet you go to. If I go back to the Discovering worksheet, I still see the exact same watch window. If the watch window gets in your way, you're free to move it. Another very cool thing about the watch window is it acts as a go-to feature. If you want to go to a particular cell, just double-click the cell, and Excel will immediately jump there, even if it's on another worksheet. The watch window is a feature that they added to Excel 2003. Once you start using the watch window, it'll become a permanent fixture in your Excel screen. Well, it's such a great feature that you want to keep forever, but I'm going to close it so we can move on. Let's go on to the next worksheet.